Buster Olney joins us right now. Buster, it's weird as we watch Altuve continue to rake against the Red Sox. Who's in more trouble, the Red Sox or the Yankees right now?
Oh, the Red Sox, because you haven't updated it. Carlos Correa just hit a 2-run homer that went off the bat at about 120 miles an hour. The Red Sox are in trouble. They went into this series beaten up with the starting pitching with some concerns, different issues. Yeah, and Houston is playing so well down the stretch. It'll be a tall task for Boston.
When we look at what happened last night with Trevor Bauer, is he just that good, or are the Yankees just out of their depth?
No, I think he's that good. If you look at his numbers over the last few months, that's what he's become with that great combination of breaking ball down in the strike zone at 76 mile an hour, and then topping out his fastball at the upper part of the strike zone at 96 miles per hour. A great combination, and I think someone really very dangerous. And it was interesting because we talked to Terry Francona before yesterday's game, and that his decision to start Trevor in Game 1 had gotten a lot of conversation here, some controversy over Corey Kluber, and Terry kind of looked at us like, I don't understand why people would have a question about it, because Trevor's been really good. And he certainly showed that last night.
Now they get Corey Kluber in the Game 2 matchup. Can the Yankees have any success against Kluber, and if so, how?
Levack, can you cover your ears for me for a second?
Yeah, I'll go in the other room.
Okay. Last 5 starts for Corey Kluber against the Yankees. 5-0, 1.15 ERA.
Woo!
I talked to Todd Frazier a little while ago about facing Corey Kluber, and he talked about, the difficult thing against Kluber, besides the fact that his ball moves a lot, is that he always releases all of his pitches from the exact same slot. And he's very consistent. It adds to how deceptive he is. And let's face it, I think if you're the Yankees going into this game, it's almost got to be like Ali in the fight against George Foreman. It's got to be a rope-a-dope situation. You have to outlast Kluber. I don't think you're necessarily going to beat him with a 5 spot, but you're hoping that CC Sabathia throws up zeros along with Kluber, keeps it close, and then helps to turn it into a bullpen game later, because that's when I think the Yankees will have an advantage.
Buster Olney with us right now. So yeah, I mean, I'm as a Yankee fan and trying to be realistic at the same time. I'm excited to see CC on the mound, and my reason, and you can tell me if this is just pure delusion on my part, like usual. I think they play better behind CC. He's the fiery, emotional leader. I think he'll dig deep and give us something special, and it'll be the only chance they really do have to beat a Kluber.
And I agree with you. I think he's going to pitch well. And remember, they don't need a lot out of him. I suspected going into this game that Girardi probably has in the back of his mind that if he gets 18 batters out of CC, if he gets into the 4th or 5th inning, and he's rolled up some zeros, and they start to approach that 3rd time through the order, I think he'll pull the ripcord and go right to Chad Green, who's available today, and go right to David Robertson, who's available today. Look, there are various ways in which the Indians clearly have an advantage over the Yankees, but I think the Yankees, at this point, clearly have an advantage over the Indians with their bullpen, with their depth and the quality of it.
You talk about going in there, ripcord. How quick is too quick? Is there any inning? I get you don't want to be Severino quick, but he's getting shelled. When can Joe Girardi look and say, I have to go to this?
Well, it probably depends a little bit on when they see out of Kluber early. If Kluber just looks like he's going to flat-out dominate, they're going to know that they're going to be working with very little margin for error, and they already kind of in that boat anyway, because they're in a 5-game series and they're down 0-1, and they know that Kluber's going to have 2 starts in this series in all likelihood if it winds up going 5 games. So I think he'll be aggressive, and I agree with you. It's not going to be a wild card game, handling of Severino aggressive. And part of that, we got to be honest, too, is that Severino just looked completely out of sorts. From what I understand, he was out of breath when he was warming up in the bullpen because his adrenaline was so high. And that's not going to be the case with CC. I think that he will, go batter to batter with CC, and if they run into some serious trouble, I think he'll move quickly.
So you talk about Severino being, too amped up, too full of adrenaline. Let's say the Yankees do lose this evening. Do you go to Severino for a Game 3?
They've lined him up, it looks like, to pitch Game 4. and with Tanaka in Game 3. I think part of the thinking, too, with the Yankees, I was a little bit surprised. I talked to some people. I thought that they, because Severino strikes me as being one of those people who needs some reps in these situations to get his heart rate down. And in talking with the Yankees people, they feel like that there's enough concern about how many innings he's thrown that they have no problem saying, you know what, let's put him in the number 4 spot. If this series goes to a Game 4, then we can we can have him pitch then, I think that's a factor in how they're thinking right now is how much they've asked out of him during the course of the year.
Yankees coverage against the Indians starts right after Levack and I sign off here on 104.5 The Team. We're then going to be covering Cubs Nationals. Steven Strasburg gets the start for Game 1 for Washington. What does this start mean for the career and legacy of Steven Strasburg?
Boy, it's interesting because we've talked about him for so long, the greatest pitching prospect ever, the number 1 draft pick. But this morning on a podcast that I do, I was talking with Chelsea James of the Washington Post, and she pointed out that Strasburg in his career has thrown a total of 5 innings in the postseason, which seems really strange. But, of course, he had the year in 2012 when they shut him down. He's had some injury issues. So just 5 innings so far. So this is really an opportunity. And she mentioned that at the press conference yesterday, Steven seemed very much at ease. He's 29 years old. He has some natural shyness. But this is something that he wants, this sort of opportunity. And now that Max Scherzer's hurt and they had to back him up, it looks like to a Game 3, then, here's the opportunity for Strasburg. It's a big deal, I think, for him. And I think it's a big deal for all these players. Look, one of the big advantages for the Cubs in this series is that all the pressure in the series seems like it's on Washington. The Cubs conquered their 108-year demons last year. They're defending champions. They've won their rings. And on the other hand, the Nationals are in this 2-year window before Bryce Harper perhaps leaves as a free agent, and they're pushing to win it now. They got a ton of talent. They certainly are capable of doing it, but they got to get through some really good teams in order for that to happen.
Buster Olney with us right now, 104.5 The Team, your home for Yankees baseball. Buster, stay in the National League for a second. We talk about Strasburg's legacy. What does Clayton Kershaw have to do? Like, if right now he's the greatest regular season pitcher of our day. Is there anything he can do this postseason to get rid of that regular season part of that?
Look, I'll always look at him as being the best pitcher that we've ever seen. But I'm in the minority. It's pretty clear if I throw that line out on Twitter, I get so many responses back. Well, he didn't get it done in the postseason. It's the Dan Marino quandary, okay? Dan Marino was never sort of elevated to the status of a Joe Montana or Tom Brady, in part because he didn't win the Super Bowl. And I think it's going to be the same for Clayton. I think there are always going to be detractors, who won't give him credit. And people talk about how he's been a disaster in the postseason. He's been a lot better than that. And if you actually look at the starts he's made game by game, a lot of the runs that have been put up against him actually were against the relievers who followed him. But let's face it. Whether the Dodgers and the Nationals went into this postseason, I think, with more pressure than any other team, in part because the Dodgers haven't won the World Series since my last year as a fan of the Dodgers, 1988. With the Kirk Gibson home run year, and also because Clayton has a lot at stake with his legacy, as you mentioned.
All right, so you brought up, you bring up all the great sports and everything. How long until I'm just a football fan? Do we get a win or two out of this series?
Look, I thought in terms of what their opportunities are, that last night was one of their better opportunities, and they were completely shut down. I will tell you, some of the Yankees during the course of the game, after the game, were mentioning they weren't wild about the strike zone, but they all, every single player, followed up the acknowledgement of the unhappiness about the strike zone with the words, "Hey, Trevor Bauer pitched a great game." I'd say I would give you this one piece of hope about what we saw last night. Andrew Miller was not great. Andrew Miller last October was as dominant as a reliever as we've ever seen. And last night, he had a really hard time commanding the ball. Now, he's not going to be easy to hit one way or the other. And when I talked to Terry Francona a little while ago, he mentioned that they really feel like that he potentially could get better as the postseason goes along because he's had 2 stints in the DL and they don't feel like he's totally in a rhythm. But he was a mortal pitcher last night. And you saw how badly he was missing his the pitches he was throwing. There's going to be some opportunity against him maybe that you wouldn't have seen last year.
That's been the secret plan all along, Buster, is we shipped him over there just so that if we got to this point. I know you've been digging and you got great information. Anything special you learned today you want to share?
Oh, gosh. Well, I did a podcast, actually an interesting conversation. Last weekend we were going to the ballpark for Sunday Night Baseball, and there was some managerial changes that had to happen, and I looked over at Aaron Boone, and we started talking about it, and he mentioned, if some team was interested, I'd like to talk about it.
Really?
And so I wound up doing an interview with him. It's on my podcast today, in which Aaron talks about his interest in becoming a manager, and, all the thought that he's put into it, the conversations he's had about it. I tell you what, if you're the New York Mets, if you're the Philadelphia Phillies, you're one of these teams looking for a manager right now, in an era in which, a Mike Matheny, a Robin Ventura, and Brad Ausmus went right into that managerial role without managing the minor leagues, Aaron Boone would be great. I was just talking to Terry Francona about it. I said on the podcast today that, that's the perfect comp for me would be Terry Francona, because Aaron, like Terry, has a great sense of humor. He's very naturally self-deprecating. He spent his lifetime in baseball. He's very smart. He works well with people, reads people well, uses information, as I say. A great potential matchup, I think, for the Mets or the Phillies.
And he has a great middle name after what he did to the Red Sox, so...
There you go.
Buster, man, we appreciate you. Enjoy the game tonight. And listen, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Kluber looks off tonight. I'm ready.
Okay. You just hang on to that.
It's my only hope. Buster, thank you so much, man.
See you, Buster.
See you guys.